Well, if it isn't your pal, Exotic Mega Soul Blaze, and yeah, well, what do you know? I'm always two steps ahead. Welcome to a new scary story. If I were to be honest, I feel like I feel like I'm growing out of the scary story business, like the whole era of making the scary stories for you, like ever since I started making ever since I started making the story since like February 2023. It has been a wild ride, but fast forward to right now here in August 2025. Fast forward here today is that era has been nothing but uh the most forgotten road, like like down to memory lane. And as you can see, it's just so yeah, that's probably the reason why, for the lack of scary stories I've made. But but don't worry, I have a new one which we're gonna be reading, which I'm gonna read a story which introducing Leather Sofa. And but as you can tell by this picture, I don't know if you guys can see it, but if you can look at the bottom left, you see that there's like a face. There's a face in here. There's a face, a creepy face in here. As you can see it, I'm sure you guys have seen it by now. When I scroll down to see the full picture, but as you can see in this description, in this description, it all says is about a young man who has bad memories about a piece of furniture that was in his house when he was a kid. Well, I wonder what's up with that. I wonder what I wonder what's the reason for that. Well, we're just gonna have to find out. So yeah, this is Leather House. Enjoy. This is Leather Sofa. Sorry, I messed up the title of the story. But anyways, let me rephrase it. Yeah, this is Leather Sofa. Enjoy. When I was younger, when I was young, I remember there was an old leather sofa in our house. It was worn and tattered and stood in the corner of the living room. My parents had found it at a garage sale and put it for next to nothing. One day when I was about 5 years old, I was playing in the living room by myself. I happened to look up and noticed something very strange. There was a crumpled paper bag sitting on the floor in front of the leather sofa. I wondered what was inside, so I got up and walked over to investigate. The paper bag had a very distinctive. Hold up, guys. Hold up. Just have to fix myself. Anyways, yeah. Sorry, guys. I just had to fix myself. But anyways, I know. So the paper bag had a very distinctive logo printed on it. Just just as I was about to pick the bag up, I realized that a gnarled and withered hand was reaching out from under the sofa and holding down the paper bag. I suddenly stopped in my tracks and a chill ran down my spine. I was terrified as I watched. The hand slowly ex- re- the hand slowly retracted and disappeared back under the sofa. Back, back at all, Back and all. I ran out of the living room and found and found my mother washing dishes in the kitchen. Shaking with fear, I tried to tell her what I had seen, but she didn't believe me. She laughed and said I must have been imagining things. After that, I tried to stay as far away from the leather house as possible. I avoided the living room at all costs. One morning, I woke up to find the leather sofa gone. There was a new couch standing in its place. I breathed a sigh of relief. And as time went on, I forgot all about it. A few years ago, I was talking to my mother about my memories from childhood, and I suddenly remembered the old leather sofa. Whatever happened to it? I asked. Oh, don't talk to me about that horrid thing, cried my mom. We threw it out. Why? I asked. Just because I was scared of it? Well, well, I never told you this at the time, she said with a shudder. You were very young and I didn't want to frighten you. One morning, you didn't want to go to school, and while I was getting while I was getting you ready, you ran off and hid from me. I went through the whole house searching for you, and eventually I came to the living room. Just when I was about to open the door, I thought I heard you giggling to yourself. I burst in the room, and out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of what I thought was your shoe disappearing underneath the leather couch. I got down on my hands and knees and cried, "Found you!" I almost had a heart attack. It wasn't you. As long as I live, I will never forget that sight. What was it? What was it? I asked. It was an old woman with a black shawl on her head and gray, sprinkled skin. Her face was twisted into a grotesque grimace, and she was giggling like a child. She was holding a necklace or bracelet in her hand. I wanted to run, but I was frozen to the spot by fear. She directly she stared directly at me with her cold, dead eyes. No soul at all. I screamed and ran up the stairs. You were standing in the kitchen, so I grabbed you and dashed out of the house as fast as I could. I called your father, and he had to come home from work. I tried to tell him what had happened, but he wouldn't believe me. I refused to go back into the house until he got rid of that horrible old leather sofa. I was I was speech I was speechless. A few weeks after that, I was picking you up from school. My mother continued. We drove past the house where I had found the sofa at the garage sale. I stopped the car to find out more about it. I I and I stopped the car and decided to find out more about it. The lady who lived there told me that all the furniture had come with the house when she bought it. She explained that the house had previously belonged to an old woman who lived alone. She didn't have any family, so when she died, her body wasn't discovered for weeks. When they finally found her rotting corpse, it was lying on the couch. That same old leather couch we bought at the garage sale. Even now, it freaks me out just to think about it. My mother's story brought back all my old memories from childhood about the leather sofa and the gnarled and withered hand I had seen clutching the paper bag. Just the other day, I was in town shopping. In one store, I was browsing through the aisles when I saw something that looked familiar. On one shelf, there was a small paper bag that had the exact same logo I remembered. My hands were shaking as I picked it up and looked inside. It was a bag of razor blades. Damn, that's the end of the story. Oh, not gonna lie. Well, I don't have anything to say, but to call it a cool story. Well, I really, well, what I really want to look for myself is some real scary stories. At least like some score, at least to try to find. at least I want to try to find some stories that are remotely terrifying and creepy. Well, there are some stories that I read in the past and or like in the past or months ago that were at least scary. But this one is meh. That was the oh it wasn't like not even remotely scary other than of that old other than that grimace old woman that was inside the couch. But yeah, that's all I got to say. That's the end of the story. So that was leather sofa. If you guys enjoyed it, you guys already know the drill. Like, subscribe, comment, and just I won't. Just I'll rarely upload any scary stories. I'll just basically just upload some more Roblox videos or Minion Rush and stuff. Oh no, I'm just like growing out of the whole scary story era, the generation. So I'm sorry to y'all, but alright, I don't have to say but to see you guys later. Bye.